When I tell you, it took an embarrassingly long amount of time between when I decided to start a channel and when I actually started it. Like, I'm embarrassed to say. Hi, howdy, how are you? My name is Maddie, and this is my book corner. Welcome. We're in a corner. We're gonna talk about books. I read a lot, I write a lot. I am a book collector. I'm starting a book club with my best friend. Today we're just gonna focus on my top 10 books of 2023, and I'm probably gonna do like a meet the booktuber and bookshelf tour and all that fun stuff later. But for now, let's just film this video about the best books of 2023. This is my second try, because my first try, you could hear my chair squeaking the whole time. 2023 was a year of, was it a year? It was a good year. It was actually a really good year in terms of the quality of books I was reading, because I just wasn't reading to read. I can't really do that anymore. I have a full-time job. I'm married. So those are two things that take up a lot of my time. And so when I sit down to read, I was actually talking with my best friend about this yesterday, I can't not like what I'm reading. I want to enjoy the thing that I enjoy, strangely enough. I was really intentionally picking books that I liked, that I wanted to read, that were hooking me right from the start, and that I knew were just gonna be like 3.5 star or above reads. Sometimes even like 4 and above. I think the only reason that I would stick with a 3-star book is it was a 4-star book, and then something happened and it got rated down to a 3-star. So I really wasn't like hate reading or just reading books just to read them. FOMO is not something that I suffer from. So if there's a popular book and I don't want to read it, I simply won't read it. And as a human, okay, but as a booktuber, we'll see how that works out. I was pickier last year in 2023, and I was noticing that a lot more. I was really being very picky with what I was reading, and if something turned me off, I was like, bye. There were no second chances. David Tennant as the Doctor is like, no second chances. I'm that kind of man. That was me reading. And also, I don't know that I'm gonna keep that reference in. Like, Doctor Who? What is this, 2010? Anyway, I think it's a good thing to be picky about what you're reading. Honestly, like, I think it's a good thing to only read things that you are enjoying. I'm getting the sense that I'm over-explaining this, so I'm just gonna move on into the top 10 books. And yeah, I'll probably do like a newbie video. I don't want to do the newbie tag because everybody does that, but I'll do some sort of newbie video being like, welcome. Okay. All right, Mads. These books were in order the first time I filmed this, and now they're not. So I'm thinking I'm just gonna go ahead and like do no particular order, because I don't know, guys. I already filmed this. I filmed it for an hour. It's enough rambling for one day. You may notice that there are actually 11 books here in this lovely stack. That's because I have an honorable mention. This is The Lies of Locke Lamora by Scott Lynch. So this book follows a gang of thieves in the fictional kingdom of Comore. They call themselves the Gentlemen Bastards. And you sort of follow two timelines, in the past and in the present. In the past, Locke Lamora is being kicked out of his old gang. He's an orphan and he's very young, and he's being kicked out of his old gang because he steals too much and his schemes are just too big that they're actually causing a lot of havoc, because this kid can't be stopped. He's too smart for his own good. Follow him as he's grown up now. He has his own gang of thieves. They have their sights set on this wealthy lord. They're trying to steal from him, but other forces are conspiring against Locke and his fellow gentlemen bastards. So yeah, there's a lot of forces at play, and the gentlemen bastards get tangled up in something that they were not prepared for. And I think the major strength of this book, and the thing that just made me devour it in like a few days, despite the fact that it's 700 something pages, is the masterful way that this is written. And Murphy Napier on her channel actually talks a lot about this book. This is one of her favorites. She's who I got the recommendation from. Thank you, Murphy. And she talks about how anytime you're in the past, it's serving a purpose for the future. Like, there's no words for the sake of words. To me, it kind of has echoes of the Three Musketeers. There's no needless words and no needless tangents. Everything serves a narrative purpose. There's especially one specific tie-in that is so good, and it's a callback to one of the chapters in the past timeline, and you're like, oh my gosh, and then it subverts your expectations. So good. And I will say this, I recently read The Assassin's Blade, and the hijinks of Selena Sardathian were kind of laughable in comparison to La Glamora. I guess one is YA and this is adult, so it makes sense. If you're looking for a high fantasy with a very piratey feel to it, this is the book for you. It's so good. It's so good. I was really scared of picking it up for like a really long time, and then I asked my husband, I was like, should I just tackle it? Should I just do it? And he was like, yeah, do it. Shout out to my husband because it's really good. From here on out, I'm going in no particular order. I think I will save the best for last though. So I think I'll like talk about the best book of the year. That'll be last. But other than that, no particular order because, again, this is the second time I'm doing this. So next up we have Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. This was like talked about a lot towards I think like the middle of last year, like sort of summer, I believe. Don't quote me. Don't quote me. I'm just the one who's talking about the book. This fits in the niche genre of like, if you've ever read A Natural History of Dragons, this is stoic female scientist studies magical phenomenon, and it's wonderful. So this takes place in the early 1900s, which I think is the Edwardian period. Again, don't quote me on that. But it follows a character named Emily Wilde as she studies fairies. In this world, the fae are very much known. They're just kind of a part of life. And so Emily's goal is to build an encyclopedia of fairies. And to do that, she has to go on this journey into this remote Icelandic village and try and interview them about their local folk, fae, whatever have you. And I will say that the folk in here are very much more reminiscent of like Holly Black than of Sarah J. Maas. Just so you know, they're like classic folklore type of fairies, if that makes sense. Emily is trying to gather information and interview these villagers, but she's very socially awkward. She's just very socially inept. So her academic rival, Wendell Bamblebee, shows up and is just charming the pants off of everybody because that's who he is. And she's like, he's trying to steal my thunder. And we sort of go from there. Hijinks ensue. I think my favorite part about this book was the writing. It's just very much, it takes its time. No words are wasted. And I was just underlining like crazy. Ooh, this is a good quote. I suppose most children fall in love with fairies at some point, but my fascination was never about magic or the granting of wishes. The folk were of another world, with its own rules and customs, and to a child who always felt ill-suited to her own world, the lure was irresistible. So I think that about sums it up. Emily Wilde is very brash. She's very confident in her own intelligence, and she's honestly just such a treat to follow. And her and Wendell and their banter, so good. It is like sort of a cozy fantasy. If you're expecting something super high stakes, fast paced, just keeping you on the edge of your seat, I don't know that this is the book, but if you just want to sink into the story and just like let it transport you in very much a fairy tale way, then I think you might like Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. Next in my stack, we have Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. A lot of people were talking about this book last year, and kind of a thing where everybody is like, it's so good. And then you look at it and you're like, are you sure about that? And then you read it and you're like, okay, yeah, it's so good. This book follows, his name is escaping me. Like David? Oh, Ryland Grace. I was not even close. So Ryland Grace is a scientist, and he has this sort of outlandish theory that he wrote a paper about a while back. And there's something attacking our sun, and he is the only one with the expertise to be able to help solve the problem because of this outlandish paper he wrote, which has now proven to be at least somewhat correct. So he has to go into space. Can you not? There's a lot of sciencey talk, but done very well, as only Andy Weir can, if you've ever read The Martian. It's very accessible, and I just couldn't put it down. What happened was I read the first 6 chapters on ebook, on like Libby, the Libby app, and I was like, I don't really want to read this digitally. And then I saw it at Target for pretty cheap, and I was like, okay, oh great. This is the moment we've been waiting for. I'll just read it physically. And then I didn't pick it up for a year and a half. When I finally picked it back up, I gotta just read it. I gotta just read it, you know, like just do it. Just do it. So I picked it up, and within the first few chapters, just getting back into it, I was completely hooked. First 6 chapters are what? The first 100 pages? I could be totally wrong. Hold on. I just fact check myself. I was completely right. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. This is chapter 6. Page 101 right here. You can see it. Maybe. I was on the dot. Correct. And y'all doubt me for what? So I would recommend just kind of getting past the first 100 pages, and then, you know, I feel like the story hooks you after that. I can't really say much more about the plot because I feel like I would be getting into spoilers and I would be taking away from your reading experience, which in the past I've always been like, just give me spoilers, who cares? But like when other people say that, I'm always annoyed. But trust me when I say that you just gotta experience this book for yourself. It is excellent. That is Project Hail Mary. This is Fireborn by Rosaria Munda. I'm sorry if I'm butchering that. I don't know how to speak. The way this was pitched to me is if you liked Fourth Wing, but you wish it were actually good. This book centers around dragon riders. Dragons don't speak. I would say that that's my main gripe with it, is like, I'm not used to a dragon rider story in which the dragons don't speak. But basically in here we're following 2 soldiers, 2 dragon riders, and one of them is the son of nobility and the other is she grew up very poor. And what happened was, in this world, the aristocracy was overthrown and sort of a socialist form of government was instated. These 2 characters, the son of nobility, Leo, and the girl who grew up in poverty, Annie, find themselves sort of navigating this new world, this new regime, post-revolution, coming from completely different backgrounds. Just the complex politics and like the characters and their relationships with one another. It's so good. And I know for a fact that I'm not explaining it very well, but I feel like it's hard to explain. I would give it a chance if I were you. If you like dragons and you're really interested in interesting worlds and interesting politics being explored, but it's not so political that it's boring. I will say that. I think politics are fine, but at a certain point you're like, can we get back to the story? I don't think this book sacrifices story for politics. I think the politics are aiding in the narrative, if that makes sense. So I would definitely pick this up if you like dragons, and if you thought Fourth Wing was good, but what's with all that? Fourth Wing is good, but why did they talk like that? Next up is Finley Donovan is Killing It by El Casimano. And again, if I'm pronouncing that wrong, my bad. I don't know how to speak English. The premise of Finley Donovan is Killing It is that we have a single mom, Finley, who is also a romantic suspense writer. And one day she goes to a meeting with her agent at a coffee shop, restaurant, whatever, and she's talking about killing off a character. And then her agent leaves, and a random woman comes up to Finley and says, "Hi, I need you to kill my husband," thinking that she's a hit woman. So Finley sort of gets caught up in this murder investigation and maybe the mafia, I don't know. But it's really good. For what I thought of it when I first heard the concept, I was like, what? And then when I read it, it's so charming. I devoured these books, like the first 3 of them, in like 4 days. I just really, really had such a good time with this book. I would recommend it if you're looking for something that's a good time, but that will also kind of keep you on the edge of your seat. It kind of almost reminds me of Veronica Mars, if that makes sense. Like sort of that like humor mixed with thriller mystery type of thing. Veronica Mars, what kind of, I'm making all kinds of weird TV references today. Listen, also, if you are my family, don't watch this. Next up, we have Things You Save in a Fire by Catherine Center. So I love Catherine Center now. 2023 was the year of, is Catherine Center a new favorite author? Yes. I don't know what this is. Yes. Yes, she is. First off, I read The Bodyguard by her because it was no, that wasn't the one that was the book of the month. Well, it was, but my friend lent it to me and I read it and I was like, okay, yeah, this was a good, like, Saturday afternoon, like, just chill, fun time, you know, like, didn't think much of it. So I used to have book of the month, and when I saw Catherine Center come up, her book Hello Stranger, which is coincidentally in this pile, spoilers alert, when I saw her come up, I was like, oh yeah, I read one of her books, I liked it, okay, I'll choose that one. And it ended up being so good. So from what I can tell, most if not all of Catherine Center's books follows a young woman. Something happens to her, something devastating that changes her whole life, and she has to recover from that and maybe find true love along the way. So this one is about a firefighter named Cassie. Ignore the fact that I just cheated by looking off the back of the book to remember the character's name because I forgot. This follows Cassie as something happens to her. She has to leave her job, which is everything to her, and move in with her mom, who left her and her dad when she was 16. She's going through a lot because what recently made her leave her job kind of ties into the time when her mom was leaving, and she's just going through it. And she has to work at a new firehouse where no woman has ever worked there before. On top of it all, she falls instantly in love with one of her coworkers, and she doesn't believe in love. So girlie's going through it. Honestly, it's such a sweet story of hope and redemption and healing and just everything good and forgiveness, and I really, really loved it. I think this is probably my favorite Catherine Center book. It changed my life, honestly. I didn't know that books like this were written anymore, where a character goes through something and it changes them in a positive way through like healing and forgiveness and self-reflection. That sounds awful, but I feel like I haven't read a book like that in a really long time, and this one just really, like, honestly gave me hope. Thank you, Things You Save in a Fire. So next is Lovelight Farms by B.K. Borison. I was not expecting to like this one as much as I did. I picked it up on a whim and I brought it with me on a trip to Disney World. And then I ended up getting stuck in the airport going home for like 7 hours. So I had no choice but to entertain myself. And I picked this book up and it made that 7 hours feel like 1 hour. Like, it was incredible. The time just flew by while I was reading this book. I had such a great time with it. So basically, Lovelight Farms centers around, what's her name? Sylvia? Stella. Stella owns a Christmas tree farm. She has sort of partners in it. She has her kind of farmer guy and her kind of baker gal. They're her 2 best friends, and they sort of co-own it with her, but for all intents and purposes, she is the owner. Through no fault of her own, she's kind of in financial trouble. Just stuff has been happening. She just kind of can't catch a break. And so she enters this contest. It's a contest run by an influencer, and it has a cash prize, and also just the publicity that came along with it, even if she didn't win the cash prize, would probably be really huge and beneficial for her farm. However, when she enters this contest, she actually lies on her application and says that she runs the Christmas tree farm with her boyfriend, and she has no boyfriend. So she basically does this because she's like, I think this romantic story will be way more likely to get this influencer's attention. And so then what is she gonna do? She has to come up with a boyfriend quick because the influencer is coming to the Christmas tree farm to like take some pictures, interview the people, and she's like, crap, where am I gonna get a fake boyfriend? Oh, I know. How about my best friend who I've also been in love with for 10 years? So clearly that's a recipe for success, right? Nothing could ever go wrong, right? It's very charming. The characters are so charming. I feel like they're real people. I feel like I could have a real conversation with these people. And reading this right before Christmas just put me in the holiday spirit. It's set around Christmas time. It's so sweet. It's honestly the perfect little holiday romance. Lovelight Farms. Speaking of romance, When in Rome by Sarah Adams. Everybody and their mom is talking about this book, so I'll just gotta keep it brief. This book centers around a pop star. Her pop name is Ray Rose, whatever her name is. She kind of has a mental breakdown and decides that she wants to go to Rome. She decides to go to Rome, Kentucky, which is a small town in the middle of nowhere, and she just starts driving there, and then her car breaks down in this stranger's yard, and he offers to help her, and the rest is history. This is very much quintessential Grumpy Sunshine, and I think that it's one of the few that actually does the Grumpy Sunshine very, very well. It was very, very believable, but they still had that like chemistry that wasn't based on like disdain or hatred. It felt like they were kind of in on a joke together. That relationship, coupled with the fact that this is set in like the cutest small town that lived in my head rent-free for like 2 weeks after I read this book. Was the second book, the companion book, a disappointment? Yes. But that's okay. It's also important to note that it's closed door. I think there are only 2 books in this stack that have any spice, so I will put closed door mods in the description, and I highly recommend utilizing those. This one is closed door. When in Rome. Next up is Emma of 83rd Street by Audrey Bellezza and Emily Harding. So this is a modern retelling of Jane Austen's Emma, and it's so good. It's really hard to adapt Jane Austen into the modern day. And I feel like when people do it, they either A, miss the crucial themes of the original, or B, make it boring, or some sort of toxic combination of both. And I think that this manages to hit the mark with both the themes and the entertainment factor. I know this story. I do. Am I still hooked on this adorable chemistry between Emma and Knightley set in the Upper East Side? Yes. Yes, I am. I don't know what more to say about this other than just if you love Jane Austen and you love Emma of 83rd Street. I think this is going to be one that me and my best friend talk about in our book club, so if you're interested in more in-depth thoughts on that, that should be coming up within the next few months. This one is spicy, but just one scene. It's easily skippable, and I'll put closed door mods down below. Okay, moving right along, we have Hello Stranger by Catherine Center. I kind of talked about this earlier. I got it in my Book of the Month box for July of last year, and I just couldn't put it down. It follows a young woman who, following a car crash, experiences facial blindness due to some brain trauma. And this is bad news bears because she's a portrait artist currently entered in a portrait painting competition, and this competition was supposed to kind of be her big break. She has to navigate her relationships in a whole new light. She might even fall in love. Who's to say? I highly recommend anything Catherine Center writes, but especially this one and Things You Say No Fire. Those were both very, very good. I feel like I was really brief on that premise, but that's really all there is to say. There's a dog. His name is Peanut. But we saved the best for last, and that is Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. So I feel like last year you were either a Divine Rivals girly or a Fourth Wing girly. I don't know, I liked them both, but if I had to pick one. So everyone and their mom has kind of heard of this book, but I'm just gonna go ahead and explain it anyway. Basically, it involves a magical war between two gods. The main character, Iris, her brother, has gone off to fight in this war, and she is writing him letters on her typewriter and slipping them under her wardrobe, and she thinks they're going to her brother, but they're actually going to her workplace rival, Roman. And he knows that she's writing him, but she doesn't know that she's writing him. Did I say that right? I think so. Rivals to lovers ensues, of course, and that's kind of just the jumping off point for this book. There's a lot that goes into it, and the writing is stunning, spectacular, groundbreaking, amazing, wonderful, and I'm obsessed. I don't know if you can tell by the way I have 12 bajillion copies, which you'll see when I finally do my bookshelf tour. This is the UK edition. Look how pretty. Oh, she's stunning. I'm not usually, or ever, a historical fiction girly, but this does have World War II vibes, and I didn't hate it. I actually really thought it lent itself to the story being told. The chemistry between the two main characters is just, oh, it leaps right off the page, and it's such a sweet story, but it'll also break your heart into a million pieces. Good luck with that. That's it! Oh my gosh. Here we go. Here we go. How do people do this? This is impossible. These were the best books of 2023. Let me know in the comments, what were your favorite books of 2023? Were there any hidden gems? I'm a big fan of hidden gems. I like to see what people are reading. So drop those down below in the comments. Also, let me know down below what you're excited to read in 2024. This is balanced so precariously right now. I'm so scared. Thank you guys so much for watching. This was chaos. I honestly feel like this one went better than the first one because I'm not really trying to be anybody else but myself. That sounds very Disney Channel, but that's how I feel. I tried to film in front of my bookshelves, but it just wasn't working out. It just wasn't very cozy, and I wasn't having fun, so I knew you guys wouldn't have fun watching. So this is what we're working with. And I'm actually like in the corner of the room now, instead of just, hi, welcome to Maddie's Book Corner. This is a wall. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you're having a wonderful day wherever, whenever you are. I hope your day is filled with blessings and joy. And I'll see you later. No, Maddie, you have a remote. You can just do this.